Chapter 511 to 512. I don't know if I made the right choice or not, sighed Shursui as he followed Kuroka, then shook his head. Whatever, I still have time, as there are still a few years before the agreed time. I'll get to know by then. Kuroka, who was carrying a lantern and step-by-step walking through a secret passage, slightly glanced at Shursui's thoughtful face, then looked at Fuafua sitting on his shoulder with an inexplicable smile. Although Shursui did not completely agree with her condition, she is still quite satisfied with his promise. And Kuroka has confidence in her charm. Therefore, she is not worried that Shursui wouldn't fall for her. With this thought, she turned her head forward and continued to walk. As the three traveled through this passage, Shursui gradually lost sight of almost everything around him. Only the area under his feet that is illuminated by the lantern in Kuroka's hand, and Fuafua's mysteriously glowing green cat eyes are visible to him in this pitch darkness. The surrounding darkness is quite mysterious and seems to be capable of swallowing light, so normal eyesight is pretty much useless here. Even the Sharingan and Manjikyu Sharingan are unable to see anything except for Kuroka and Fuafua's chakra. However, this time, Shursui isn't too nervous. Even if he is unable to see anything in the surroundings, he is able to sense it to some degree because of Fuafua sitting on his shoulder. Fuafua, as a Nakomata proficient in senjutsu, is naturally capable of sensing and seeing through this mysterious darkness. And considering Fuafua's special ability, which enables her to share her senses with others to a certain degree, Shursui, who signed a summoning contract with Fuafua not long ago, is also capable of sensing the surroundings to a certain degree. Therefore, he is not afraid of losing track of Kuroka. After a while of walking, Kuroka stopped abruptly and said while looking at the thing in front of her, "We have arrived." Shursui was awakened by Kuroka's words and raised his head to look at what Kuroka is looking at, and immediately his pupil shrank. The mysterious darkness has already disappeared, and despite being a close haul, this area seems to be a little windy. Shursui's black cloak fluttered, and his hair swayed slightly in the wind. But all this didn't attract Shursui's attention, because all his attention is currently focused on the thing in front of him. The thing in front of him is an exaggeratedly huge black sphere, and it is exuding an aura of pure chaos. The radius of this huge black sphere is hundreds of meters, and compared to this humongous black sphere, Kuroka, Shursui, and Fuafua are as small and insignificant as ants. Noting Shursui's odd expression, Kuroka introduced with a proud tone, "This place is the holy land of Nakomata. The black ball space Naya." Shursui converged his shocked expression and asked with a suspicious tone, "The black ball space, is it?" Even before Shursui could ask his question, Kuroka nodded. "Yes, this place is no longer in the same space as the outside space. You should have felt this too, Naya?" Because of Fuafua, Shursui did feel something when the mysterious darkness appeared and disappeared. Initially, he thought that it was some sort of genjutsu that isolates normal perception, but it turns out that's not the case. Unknowingly, they have entered a completely different space. "By the way, Kuroka-sama, what does this black ball space do?" asked Shursui with a curious tone of voice. "The black ball space is a medium that will help you sense natural energy. For better understanding, I suppose you can say that it is quite similar to Mount Mayaboka's toad oil, Ryuchi Cave's sake venom, and Shikatsu Forest's slug mucus. Is that so?" Shursui nodded slightly, although he is not familiar with the practice method of senjutsu of the three sage regions. This doesn't stop him from understanding what Kuroka meant. Kuroka nodded and said, "Yes, now follow me inside the black ball space. Your senjutsu training will be carried out in the black ball space Naya. Immediately after that, Kuroka took a step forward and stepped inside the black ball space. Shursui hesitated a little, whether to follow her inside the black ball space. Seeing Shursui's hesitation and worry, Fuafua gently licked his cheek and assured, "Don't worry." With Fuafua's assurance, Shursui no longer hesitated, and he too stepped inside the black ball space. The moment Itachi dispelled the genjutsu, the scenery started to become hazy. Itachi's presence was like a drop of water in a calm lake, and it produced ripples. Wherever the ripple traveled, the scenery began to change. Itachi was no longer present in the familiar and lively village with familiar people. The scene in front of him is a familiar and unfamiliar plain with red and black chaos everywhere. Looking at this familiar and unfamiliar scenery, Itachi can't help but think, another genjutsu? But this place feels a lot like the Tsukuyumi realm. What's going on? But suddenly his brows turned into a frown, and his nose wrinkled. This is the smell of sake. However, Itachi didn't have much time to think as his eyes widened in shock looking at the person walking towards him step by step. "You are? I am you and you are me," said the person standing before Itachi. "What do you mean?" asked Itachi with a confused expression as he looked at the person standing before him. Although, he does have a guess in his mind about the identity of the other party, considering that the person standing in front of him looks exactly the same as him and give off the exact same feeling. To Itachi, it feels as if he is looking at himself standing opposite to him. "You guessed it right. I and you, we are the same people, but at the same time, we are different. I am your inner darkness. Everyone has darkness within their hearts, and I am the manifestation of your inner darkness. I am also your true self," said the other dark Itachi. "I see my inner self? So, to get out of here, I need to be able to defeat you. And since you are my inner self, which means I need to be able to overcome my inner self, in other words, myself. Is that right? Asked Itachi in a sure tone. The dark Itachi nodded with a smirk. Yes, to be able to get out of here, you need to be able to defeat me. But you know what's the best thing about this fight? Itachi narrowed his eyes, and while not letting the stench of alcohol affect him, he asked, "What happens if I am unable to defeat you? Will I be trapped here?" Dark Itachi said with an evil smile, "Yes, if you lose, you will remain trapped here forever, while I, on the other hand, will be able to get out of here. I will be able to take over the body, and then, hee, the fun will begin." Itachi's pupil shrank upon looking at that evil smile, and he instantly made up his mind with a determined expression, no matter what. "I must win," and activated his Sharingan, then raised his right hand, forming a seal of confrontation. Dark Itachi looked at Itachi's determined expression, the Sharingan that is activated by Itachi, and said, as expected of myself, "Even when facing me, there is still no hesitation. Well then, let us start this fight. The winner gets what he wants, while the loser will forever be sealed here." As soon as the Dark Itachi finished, he too activated his Sharingan, and then raised his right hand in the form of the seal of confrontation. In the black ball space, inexplicable black energy is present all around and is constantly forming several vortexes that would swallow anyone and tear them down to shreds. Mighty thunder and lightning flash from time to time, making a loud roar. Anyone who would be victim to such terrifying lightning would be burnt to a corpse in an instant, but these vortexes and lightning don't seem to affect or disperse the darkness of the black ball space. Meow! With a soft meow, Fuafoa suddenly appeared in the darkness, and the very next second she disappeared in the darkness without leaving any trace, as if she was never present there. In the depths of the black ball space, where the darkness is looming, a touch of light illuminated Shirsue's face. His black hair swayed slightly, and some kind of unknown energy is constantly entering his body. After a while, Shirsue opened his eyes, but different from his normal eyes with black pupils and white sclera. This time these eyes were pitch black, and there were clear signs of a maddening look on his face. Smash! The very next second, a black stick appeared out of the darkness and slammed on the young man's back. There was a low muffled sound, and Shirsue grunted in pain. Ouch! Shirsue resisted the intense pain coming from his back, and his eyes were cleared as the pitch blackness from his eyes also disappeared. But there was no happiness on his face, rather a regrettable expression. Failed again. Even Shirsue is inevitably a little frustrated after repeated failure. Every single attempt of mastering Senjutsu has resulted in failure. Each time he will be swallowed by natural energy, and by now he has already lost count of how many times he has failed. Then there is the strangeness of this black ball space. There is no sense of time, and he doesn't know how long has it been since he entered it. This darkness, repeated failure, and worry that something might happen to Itachi and the village are constantly affecting his mentality, making him impatient and restless. Is it really so difficult to learn Senjutsu? This question is a bit difficult for him to accept. Shirsue has always been a genius since he was a child. He was born with 3 basic chakra natures and had amazing talent in all 3 of them. His genjutsu proficiency is one of the best in the entire history of the Uchiha clan. His amazing talent allowed him to be able to master a basic body flicker jutsu into something very unique and made him famous all over the shinobi world for that. Then he awakened his Manjikyu Sharingan at a very young age, and along with that he also awakened the ultimate genjutsu Kodoame Tsukumi. Not to mention, he is one of the very few shinobi to have survived the Hashirama cell transplantation and also awakened Mokuton. Of course, Shirsue wouldn't say that he is the most talented shinobi out there, considering there are freaks like Hashirama Senju, Uchiha Madara, and Hyuga Kuroto standing above him. But it wouldn't be wrong to say that his growth has always been quite smooth with few roadblocks. He never thought that he would encounter something so terrible where he would be short of talent. But right now, he is indeed stuck in the first level of Senjutsu training and hadn't made any progress even after hundreds of tries. Shirsue knows that Senjutsu is extremely difficult to master. This is not only because it has very high requirements, but also because very few people get exposed to the knowledge of Senjutsu in their lifetime. And here he is, who has not only been exposed to Senjutsu, but also meets the requirements to be able to master it. But he has not been able to make any progress even after so many tries, so it is inevitable to get frustrated. Damn it. Why am I failing again and again? Just when Shirsue was getting more and more restless, he suddenly felt a pair of arms wrapping around his neck, a body clinging to his back, and a familiar voice sounded next to his ears. Calm your mind, and do not let restlessness take over you. Naya. The person who hugged him from behind is obviously the Nekashu Kuroka. Ever since she entered the black ball space, her physical body seems to have completely disappeared, but she seems to be present everywhere inside the black ball space. It is as if she has become the black ball space itself. And all this while, she has been helping Shirsue and making sure he does not get overwhelmed by natural energy. Whenever the natural energy present in the black ball space would start to take over him, or start to corrupt his mind, Kuroka would beat Shirsue's back with the black stick and expel all the natural energy at once. The only problem is that Kuroka's hands seem to be a bit too strong, and each time she smashes Shirsue's back with the black stick, it really hurts. Noting Shirsue's restless mind, Kuroka gently nibbled his ear much to his embarrassment, then said, "Right mindset is extremely important to master Senjutsu. So be patient, Naya. Shursui sighed, then took a deep breath and calmed down slightly. He did notice that up until now his mentality has been a little impetuous because he wants to get out of here as soon as possible due to the worries in his mind. And this strange dark space, where there is no sense of time, is also affecting his emotions strangely. These things are not allowed if he wants to master senjutsu. But Kuroka's brought Shursui out of restlessness and eased his mind. After a while of silence in which Shursui readjusted his mentality, he closed his hands together and said, "All right, let's start again." Ding 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 ding. In the red and black chaotic space, two fast figures flickered from one place to another, and from time to time sparks flew, due to the collision of metal. The two figures are Natural Itachi and Dark Itachi, who have been fighting all this while in an attempt to defeat the other, so as to get out of this strange red and black space. Sometimes they would use ninjutsu, other times they would use shuriken jutsu, genjutsu, or kenjutsu, but no matter what sort of jutsu or tactics either side used, the stalemate continued because the other side seems to be able to counter and respond to each jutsu perfectly. Neither side remembers for how long they have been fighting this battle. Perhaps it's been minutes, hours, or maybe even days. But one thing that both sides seem to have accepted is that they are an equal match to one another. As another one of his genjutsu was broken by the other party using Tsukuyomi, Itachi coughed lightly and muttered, "It can't do on like this." The Dark Itachi smirked after noting Itachi's state, and said, "Heh, it doesn't seem that you will be able to hold on for too long." Itachi looked at the Dark Itachi, whose breathing is extremely rugged, and shook his head lightly. "You are in no better condition than me." TCH. Dark Itachi clicked his tongue in annoyance, because what Itachi said is indeed correct. Dark Itachi's condition is no different from Itachi. Both of them are extremely tired and don't have much fight left. Itachi sighed, and after some time of thinking he asked, "Tell me something. You claim to be my inner self, but what is it that you truly desire?" Dark Itachi was confused, and looked at Itachi in confusion. "What do I truly desire? Seriously, are you asking me this question now of all times?" Itachi nodded. "What I have always desired is peace. I want to be able to grow strong enough to be able to stop all wars. This is what wish to achieve. What is it that you desire? What desire of ours gave birth to you?" Dark Itachi's face darkened. "Don't you already know?" Itachi shook his head. "Maybe I know, maybe I do not know. I am not certain. This is why I am asking you. I want to know, what is the desire in our heart that gives you motivation and strength?" Dark Itachi was silent, then chuckled. "So, you want to get rid of that desire in our heart in order to defeat me?" Itachi didn't reply, just silently waiting for the other party's answer. Dark Itachi deeply looked at Itachi, then shook his head. "You need to figure it out yourself. If you can't even figure out what is that desire in our hearts, then you will never be able to defeat me." After listening to Dark Itachi's words, Itachi smiled, because he has already figured out the answer. And when Dark Itachi saw that smile on Itachi, his expression shrank and panic appeared on his face. But he did not have much opportunity to be able to say or do anything because his body suddenly burst into flames and disappeared.